Hello everyone, in this video we will be discussing about the electrical vehicles compatible materials. So mainly this discussion will be about the elastomers, the rubbers basically. So the purpose of this kind of testing, so it is important to understand where these elastomers are used in electrical vehicles. So for example, in the conventional fuels or equipments, I will say, so that uses petrol and diesel, in that rubbers and elastomers are able to sustain the pressure in terms of the things with petrol and diesel. However, now which is coming, that is the electrical vehicles, in that batteries, coolants and electrolytes are used. So for that it has become even more important to use the elastomers testings. So what all are the kind of testing we can use? If in a pre-cap, I will say, so that it is low temperature test to be done. Apart from this, we have immersion test, compression set test. For the thermal sustenance, it is important to do the heat aging test. So that these rubbers, or if I say the elastomers, can sustain the compression or the high temperature environmental simulation, and your electrical vehicles are fully fine for performing the functioning in the applications. So we will consider some of the standards for the electrical vehicles elastomers testing, and accordingly we will use the Presto testing equipments, that how these can ensure your sustainable mobility. So first kind of testing is the heat aging test, which complies to ASTM D573. If I talk about in real world where these elastomers are used in EV, so they are used as gaskets. In the battery coolants, they are used for coverings. So in that, these rubber equipments are used. So they used to undergo high thermal degradation at 150 degrees Celsius, 200 degrees Celsius. So we have equipment like hot air ovens or a heat aging tester, in which we used to place the samples of the standardized dumbbell shape in the oven and set it at 70 degrees Celsius or 150 degrees Celsius for 96 hours, 24 hours and 14 days as well. And we perform the heat aging test. The sample, how is it cracked or deformed, or its tensile test after this heat aging test has reduced, or compression test. So for this heat aging test is something these EV elastomers should undergo. The second kind of testing is the immersion test. So if I talk about the coolants, electrolytes, or if the rubber sealants, if I will say, so immersion test is also very important for these things. So for that we can follow a standard for making the liquid, and the standard will be ASTM D471 for making the liquid, that you can fill in the hot water bath. You can use glycol. So in that, proper way of making the liquid is also written in this standard, and we can fill it in the hot water bath and can place a rubber sample and see that after immersion test the sample has cracked, or what kind of condition the sample has undergone. Some sample can reduce its 50% compression or tensile test after the immersion test, and some good samples will be in such a case that only they will lose their 10% of their quality. So it gives you better analysis in immersion environment. Then the third kind of testing is the tensile set test. If I talk about O-rings, so O-rings are also made up of rubbers, so or other elastomers, which are used for sealing the components, the lids and two components. So in that case they undergo compression, they undergo tension also while in the actual application of the cars. So in that case it should be able to sustain the high tension force. So there is ASTM D1414 standard, in which there is a proper mention of tensile testing, that at a fixed duration you can just let the sample elongate for 100% and see that sample can tear, it can crack. So that kind of testing, those O-rings can be used in, because in conventional sample now the rubber has undergone its compatibility in the conventional fuse. But if I talk about the United Nation, it has considered sustainable development goals in the goal 7, and it is saying for affordable and sustainable mobility. In that, it is important for the elastomers to now become EV compatible. So these testing has even more importance now. So that's why these are main tests. If you will perform, you will get the better understanding of the samples. Then the another kind of test is the last I will say is the cyclic testing in the humidity and in the temperature environments. So for that we can follow standards like ASTM D746 or ISO 812. For these standards, it is in these low temperature testings are being discussed. For example, in minus 40 degrees Celsius, we used to place the sample and then see that sample will undergo deformation or cracking. So that kind of understanding in this, we can use deep freezers for these things, or a proper hot and cold chamber you can use, or a programmable temperature and humidity chambers, in which at a minus 40 to 150 degrees Celsius and with a 20% to 98% RH, you can make any cycle and see that sample can sustain these conditions or not. So these kind of tests are important to make these elastomers EV compatible, and you can also make your product trendy as per the sustainable mobility. So this was the main purpose of making this video. So for more testing and information, you can contact Presto. Thank you so much.